Jeffrey,
Hey, my friend, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am doing spectacular, my friend. Happy to be on your show.
Great to meet you. I keep thinking in the game of life, if we were to have some like immaculate kickball game, you would be the first one that would be picked. You got to have disaster preparedness. You're the guy.
That's it, baby.
You got to be ready to roll. Where are you coming out of?
Burbank, California.
Okay, excellent. I remember landing in Burbank. So I'm from Kansas City, and I heard all
Okay.
these stories about how pretty California people were. And I remember landing in Burbank, and it was the first time that I ever walked out of a ladder coming out of a plane, and I felt like I was officially in. That was the best way to enter California.
Yeah. Well, the three things I know about Kansas City is you're not the same football team as Trump thinks you are.
That's right. I forgot about that.
You're the only known pathway to Oz,
Okay, right.
and you and you have beautiful landscapes.
It is beautiful, but I miss the contours that you get in California and out west, with all the ocean and everything like that. But yeah, we all have our charms.
We do. Every place has their charms.
Yeah, for sure. Well, man, it's great to meet you, and I want to begin our conversation with what we've lived through for the last 3.5 years. How did you
Absolutely.
how did you get through the pandemic, and how has it changed you?
One second. Let me change my wait.
Yes, sir.
So I get this. So I'm looking at you. So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what was sorry, what was your question?
Yeah, so I was going to say, we've lived through this pandemic for the last 3.5 years or so. How did you get through it, and how has it changed you now that we've kind of emerged out, so to speak?
Well, the pandemic was, really, odd for I actually was protected, when everybody else was like, oh my God, where's my next paycheck gonna come? How am I gonna make my money and all this stuff? I had planned all my life for my future. When I was 12 years old, my grandmother took me to Burger King and she said, Jeff, do you like Burger King? I said, yes, Grandma, I like Burger King. And she said, Jeff, would you like to own your own Burger King? I said, absolutely, Grandma. And then she slid me over 100 shares of Burger King stock. And it got me so talking about investing that when this pandemic thing happened, I had 3 years of liquid cash plus other investments and everything like that. So I didn't have to worry about making money. And in turn, I made money. And a lot of my businesses, did suffer a little bit. I work with the Red Cross a lot. I'm a disaster manager with the Red Cross. That was the most challenging thing because the Red Cross, if we had big fires or things like that, or tornadoes out in Kansas, you couldn't have a shelter with 100, 200, 500 people living in close quarters together because the virus was raging and it would kill a lot of people. So we had to replan how the Red Cross actually does shelters because we still needed to provide support for people because there was still disasters happening. There were still people needed to get out of their buildings were catching on fire and people needed to have a place to stay before they can get on their road back to recovery. So we had, we would set up hotels and we would have everyone have their own room. And meals were challenging. How do you deliver meals to people safely? How do you deliver meals safely to hundreds and hundreds of people every day? And Red Cross delivers 3 meals a day, plus snacks, plus we have counselors, plus we have disaster mental health, plus we got to get you back into shape to get you back to your life so you can start to recover it. So that was really the biggest challenge that we had. And as a manager of the Red Cross, and all this stuff, that was one of the biggest challenges we had. Living my life in this and doing that, I was able to definitely work around that, and I developed ways of doing things. And Amazon shipping was a godsend, but so it was all about being prepared and knowing how to plan your resources. I have power generators, so if power goes out, I have power generators. I have solar in my house. I have my life planned so that I can prepare for disasters. Because if you're not preparing for disasters, you're reacting to one.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get to the heart and soul as a disaster preparedness expert. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. One of the kids,
Okay.
it's career day. One of the kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
What I say I do for a living is I help businesses like what your daddy or mommy work at. I help them plan so that they can create plans so that they can survive and thrive and be there for you, because you are an important person. You are the most important person in your parents' life, and your parents need to be there to support you. And the businesses that they work at, where they make money to pay for your lunches and pay for the car that drives you to school, those resources need to be protected. And we work with businesses to protect them so that they can protect you.
So when you were in the third grade, what was your dream? What did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was a third grade, I really wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be Gene Kelly, Danny Kaye. I wanted to be those great people. I wanted to also climb to the top of the mountains of and be an adventurer. Most people, oh, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a doctor, I want to be this. I wanted to climb the top of giant mountains and all this stuff. And I was also very I was also a very aware child. I had my grandmother and a friend of mine named George Hegwood at a young age uh, got me really devoted into discovering how poetry, can really awaken a great part of a person's life.
Absolutely. I agree. So how did this happen? Where were you born and raised? How did you get fascinated with preparing people to get through disasters? How did all this become who
Well,
you are today?
I was born in England. My mom was teaching primary school in England, and she met a guy, and blah, 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 and out popped Jeffrey. And so I was born in England, Sussex, England. My mom quickly, after we were born, the man decided he didn't want to be a part of my life, so he said, "I'm off to this." Mom stuck around for a little while. Then we went to New York, and we lived in New York for a few years. At about 4 years old, I met a really good friend named Christopher, and Christopher and I bonded as close friends. And my mom and I, we actually were out with Christopher, and we came back to the loft we were living in, and it was empty. and we went in there, and all of a sudden, someone, "Hey, Valerie, hey, Barbara, you want to go to a little concert in upstate New York?" This was in 1969. So we went to a little concert in upstate New York called Woodstock. You may have heard about it.
Yeah.
And so we partied, and I really loved Christopher. At 10 years old, Christopher, his mother, and his father were tragically killed by a drunk driver. I was devastated. I loved him dearly. He was the brother I never had. I couldn't believe he was gone forever. I was even afraid to ride in cars. During my sorrow, my grandmother took me I went to see my grandmother, and we did poetry and sculptures together. But what made the most impact on me was she took me to Washington, D.C., and we saw all the monuments. But the trip to the National Portrait Gallery, and there was an exhibit honoring the Roosevelts. And I stood before this giant statue of Eleanor Roosevelt, and my grandmother whispered her words to me that was on her bust. "When you cease to make a contribution, you begin to die. When you cease to make a contribution, you begin to die." Those words echoed for me. And at that moment, I had a clarity, and I made a promise to my dear friend Christopher and to myself that everything in my life would have some level of contribution. And that's what led me on the path to giving back and becoming a volunteer and do whatever I can to give back and support those who I need to support, who need my support.
It is so interesting you mentioned that exhibit. I have never heard anybody talk about that. I went to DC. I was working at a computer lab in an inner city in KC, and I took a kid that got a grant from AT&T to go up there. And I went and saw that. And of all the things, I mean, I saw Iwo Jima, I saw all these things, but I remember that one. I remember Eleanor, and I had no idea how deep she was and how
She was a very
profound
deep woman.
that whole like walkway up, reading and seeing everything. I had no idea. You're the first person, and this has been since the 90s, that's ever brought that up that eloquently, because that blew my mind. Like, of all the things that I saw, I mean, I ran my hand over the Vietnam Wall, all the stuff, everything, but that
Yeah.
one right there really moved me. you know, so
Yeah,
I
it's
get
good.
it.
She was my favorite first lady, you know. She
Yeah.
really did it. She really was a strong. She was the first, you know, woman to support lesbians and gays. She was the first lady to support African Americans. You know, she flew with the Tuskegee Airmen.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't not going to be in the war until Eleanor flew in a plane with them, and then next thing you know, they were flying over Germany, you know, supporting the bombers. And so and so she really supported everybody, diversity rights. I mean, somebody at that in that time supporting lesbians and gays and black people was unheard of, you know.
She was a
And this
force.
is a strong, powerful woman who took the power of her husband's legacy and pushed it forward.
Yeah, for sure. So, of all of the natural disasters that exist, what's one that fascinates your mind the most?
Well, the most common disaster is flooding. And I say it's the most common disaster because any other disaster, usually flooding follows.
Yeah.
When you have an earthquake, levees break, pipes break, things we have flooding. When you have fires, ground saturates, and you have flooding. When you have flooding. When you have tornadoes, you have massive water, you have flooding. When you have hurricanes, you have things. When tornadoes come, they cause flooding. So flooding to me is the most powerful. I mean, when you see the force of water, the power that water has, it's one of the only pieces of nature that we cannot control. You know, when fires come, we can dig trenches around fires, and we can have a control, or if we can control the spread of fires to an extent. You know, we have to work at it, but we can do that. Tornadoes just come through, boom, bang, bing. You know, you get a warning, you get out of its way, you're done. Earthquakes happen. It's a major disaster, but you know, it's something that with the proper management, proper resource, and proper preparation, you can control. But when a wall of water is coming at you and pushing down the entire thing, there's nothing that stops that. Nothing that stops that except when it runs out of steam. You know, that's basically it. You know, and there are a lot of natural disasters, a lot of, you know, and then, you know, one of the things that we're big in right now is non-natural disasters. You know, active shooter instances. There have been over 500 active shooter instances in this country this year. You know, there have, you know, we just had a couple of years ago this thing called an insurrection that we had. We had thousands and thousands, you know, tens of thousands of people, for whatever reason they did, decided to circumvent our political process, and you know, and people died. You know, I'm not going to say who's right and who's wrong. This is not that platform.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that life was lost. Our democracy was threatened, and that was things. So there's a lot of things, and active shooters. I mean, we do active shooter training for businesses. Businesses need to know how to protect themselves, and not only just how to protect themselves and their employees, but the customers. You know, we see that, you know, when an active shooter happens, one of the biggest problems that people do is they throw up their hands and say, "Oh, I'll let the government and the media and everybody figure out what to do to repair this whole thing." And that could be the furthest thing from that you should do, because the politicians do not have your best interest at heart. They have their donors' best interest at heart. You know, and the media only cares about getting that story. They don't
It
care about
bleeds,
what
it
effect it
leads.
does to your business.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, when Uvalde happened, the police chief ran away and hid for 2 weeks. No one could talk to him for 2.5 weeks. You know, the news media goes in and shows pictures of this bloody girl's shoe, you know, and gives her name. That's a horrible thing. You know, when you know, people ask me what's the one thing you can do to prevent active shooter incidents from happening. When there's a report of an active shooter, and on the media it has the perpetrator's name and photograph, call the media and tell them not to do that.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, but 90+% of the time, that person is doing it because they have nothing in their life and they want their 15 minutes of fame. They want their
Yep.
Andy Warhol. And
Absolutely.
by the news media giving them, putting their picture on the paper, yeah, they may spend the rest of their life in prison, but they got their 15 minutes. They got their name on every news media, and they got their photo on it, and it was there. I mean, when the guy who attacked Nancy Pelosi's husband, they put a picture of him sitting on a beach, smiling with a beautiful, nice picture of this guy, and they told about his biography.
Yeah,
Well,
it's bad.
where are they talking about where are they talking about the other people that were, I'd rather them put a picture of this girl named Johannes, who's down the street from me here, who volunteers with me at a Sikh temple passing out meals. Put her picture on the news
Absolutely.
media.
I agree.
You know,
I totally agree.
yeah,
I was a correspondent for a cable station called Current TV. Al Gore set it up in the early 2000s. And they
yeah,
would pick correspondents that would just kind of go out, citizen journalists. And I went to Osawatomie, Kansas during a flood, and I had to do research on it. And I had no idea that water floods are they cause the most damage of anything. And people, I don't think, realize that. Just
yeah.
water. It's the most destructive. It's crazy, man. So I'm so
It's
glad you
crazy.
said that. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're full of wonderful anecdotes here. I've always thought that when shootings happen, don't cover it. Don't do it. It creates copycats. It's a dangerous business. But the media,
absolutely.
when it bleeds, it leads, man. That's how they roll. It's
I
their
know it's a hard
Hippocratic
thing
oath.
it's a hard, believe me, I get it. It's a hard thing because you're this news media. Your responsibility is to give the public the information that's there. They should know that something happened.
Yeah.
But what you shouldn't do is put this guy's picture on the news media. What does it add to the story whether you put this guy's picture and put his name and put and this that? Just say a perpetrator, a guy or a girl or whatever put this person's, but don't give his name, don't give their picture, don't talk about them. Just let if the government wants to investigate that they can do that. But I understand it's a tough thing. Public needs to know. Public has a right to know these things.
Yeah.
But you gotta weigh it with the consequences of what happens. You have to be responsible journalists, not just reactionary journalists, not just trying to get that clickbait.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jeffrey, who's been a hero for you in your life?
Well, Eleanor Roosevelt was my dearest heroes. Mahatma Gandhi. One of the reasons that I volunteer a lot is, I was looking at him and his quote, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in service to others, really impacted my life. Also poets. I get a lot from poets, E.B. White and Shakespeare and all these different poets who really inspired me and got me awake. I had a very destructive childhood, and I was abused by a girl, a boy, and a man who lived in my house. But what got me through all that pain of being abused was poetry and awakening myself into that. And I learned to cry out my story because that was my glory, to self-realization. And so, and I studied all the things of Socrates. Oh, what a great human being that was. His understanding of human knowledge, understanding of these. And I've been a history buff all my life. And so I like that.
So if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now, who would it be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
Well, I'm kind of good friends with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and I've met him several times, and I want to meet him again. I want to really, I'd like to just, I've met him a few times because we've done some work with him. His people, we live streamed him twice when he was out here in LA, and we were supposed to go back and help him build a production studio for him, but the pandemic hit and we've been put off for a long time, and we've worked with him. So I'd like to go back and do that. I think that live, I would just say I'd like to sit down with people like Ron Howard, who has this magnificent past, and Clint Eastwood. these people who have this magnificent past in our entertainment industry and are really have great stories to tell. And I met Ron Howard's dad at a conference I was doing, and we had a really good talk and talked about his sons and Gentle Ben stories and all this, and Opie stories, and he was just a magnificent man. He really was a wonderful man, and I like Ron Howard. I really like him as a director and an actor, and and stuff like that. And then Clint Eastwood is just also awesome man who's just had so much in his life to grow from. So there's a lot of people I'd like to meet. And I like to understand how they do. But yeah.
That's cool. So what is your daily motivation? What is the fuel in your tank that gets you up every morning, that leads you through the day and makes you who you are?
Well, I wake up every morning with like Eleanor's words in my mouth. What can I do to contribute to others? And I get up every morning and I have I put celery, spinach, ginger, garlic, some ice, some almond milk, and stuff like that into my Vitamix blender and have that drink. And I just get up and I do that. I go to the gym. And what motivates me in life and gets me going is being out there and helping, and knowing that what I'm doing helps people. Knowing that the Preparedness Network that I started, this company I started, the Preparedness Network, is really doing good and really helping other people. That's what got me motivated with the American Red Cross. That's why I've been a big part of the Big Brother and Big Sisters, Jewish Big Brothers and Big Sisters, for 30 years, mentoring 6 kids. That's why I've worked with the Habitat for Humanity. I've built almost 100 houses with them. That's why I've been, I work at a Sikh temple twice a week, handing out movies, handing out food at their pantry and making food for the people who are hungry. And so what inspires me every day is getting out there and making a contribution and making a difference. And I was looking at the Preparedness Network when I started this, and it says, there's a lot of people talking about family disaster preparedness. How can families prepare for disasters? But there was really not a lot of people talking about how can businesses prepare for disasters. There was a company in Texas last year when the snowstorm was coming, and they didn't have a communications plan. So the cell phones went out, the cell phone towers went out, their landlines went out, and there was no way for parents to communicate with their kids at the school to find out if they were great. So parents got in their cars and drove to get their kids. Well, on the way, the parents froze to death on a bridge, and and 4 people died. If that company had prepared and created a communications plan, that they would be alive today. So that's my goal. What inspires me to get out there and help businesses do that. And we have, we have a lot of free stuff too. We have a free active shooter training program. We have a free leadership program. Because when you're a business, if you want to develop your business and grow your business and develop disaster preparedness plans, you need leaders. Yeah. You need to duplicate yourself and create new leaders. And that's what we do. We're John Maxwell certified leadership coaches. And so we're here to create an environment where businesses can succeed. And that's what I'm here to do.
So if you had a dream tonight and ran into the 20-year-old version of you, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained up to this point, what advice would you dispense on your younger self?
I would say start really speaking much earlier. I've grown to be a great speaker. I'm a TEDx speaker. I'm a Toastmaster speaker, and I speak on stages all the time. I would say get out there and start speaking much earlier than I did. And really get out there, because I have great messages, and I have really powerful messages.
Yeah.
And I can really help a lot of people. And that's my really goal, is to do out there. So that's what I would tell.
So of all the things that you've done and overcome and accomplished, what are you the proudest of?
I would say, there's so much I have, but the kids that I've mentored and the Jewish Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Los Angeles, the power and the commitment and the dedication it takes to be a big brother, not even once, but 6 times. To me, seeing these kids who have been part of my life, and I've helped grow into young men, into successful people, that has been one of the most successful and most proudest things of my life. But it's just everything. I mean, I was working in a shelter a couple of months ago, and this woman came in, and it's like, and she was, you know, she had high blood pressure, and I'm an EMT with the Red Cross, and being able to help see those signs and be able to help her. And I mean, every day when I work when you work as a volunteer, every day that you help somebody is just a phenomenal part of your of what you do, and it's an awakening thing that awakens such a power and a beauty in yourself.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, so I do that, and it's like I wake up I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I saved three lives. I stopped for a car accident. I resuscitated 3 people back when they had a car accident.
Wow.
I mean, one of them ended up dying eventually, but when they were in the car accident, I got there, I stopped my car, I got out, I did triage on them. I resuscitated all 3 of them, got them back to breathing until the fire department came and took over. So, and I've been given the life-saving award from the Red Cross a few times. So it's just getting out there and being cognizant of your surroundings.
Yeah.
And just understanding that we are all here to support each other, and we're not here whatever some guy here says to do, and it's harmful this and harmful that, and fear people. You know, don't be fearful of people. Hatred is not our problem in the world. Our problem is people are telling people to fear. Hitler didn't say hate the Jews.
Yep.
Hitler said fear the Jews.
Yeah.
Donald Trump didn't say hate the migrants. He said fear the migrants. They're rapists and murderers. So stop the fear, not the hate, because hate is a symptom of fear.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you're the one that's running the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a pretty nice dude. You know, I think that I really, you know, I you know, a lot of people retrospect on themselves and hide who they are. I wear my life on my sleeve. You know, I am an open book. I don't hide myself. When I do wrong, I say, look, I'm wrong. I really think that I'm a decent human being. Am I the best human being that's ever been on this planet? No. I have flaws. I'm a human, and I have flaws, and I have flawed, and I have made mistakes. And, you know, but, you know, our mistakes are our biggest successes. My mistakes, my biggest mistakes have grown to my biggest successes. You know, when we fall, we got to fall up.
Yep. I love it. So if anyone wants to learn more about you, hire you, anything about your world, where can they go?
So we have a preparednesstv.info is our website. Preparednesstv.info. And they can email me, jeff@preparednesstv.info. So my email is jeff@preparednesstv.info. And then my phone number is 818-624-4242. So they can call 818-624-4242. My website, preparednesstv.info. We're on the social medias. We're on the LinkedIn, the Twitter-y. I have a full social media team that puts up things all the time. We have a great YouTube channel, a really good YouTube channel, Preparedness Network. You just go to YouTube and Preparedness Network. You'll see us there. Just get the logo right there, and you'll see that going on right there. And yeah, so that's how you can get a hold of us. My phone number, 818-624-4242, you know, or email me, jeff@preparednesstv.info.
Jeff, the man, the myth, the legend, thank you for opening up the Immaculate Book, giving us your story. I love your energy. I love what you're doing, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Please do. And please, everyone, comment, subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to this channel, comment on this channel, and like this video. Most importantly, like this video. Right. All right.
Yes, sir. Jeffrey, thank you, man. Take care. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
Take care.